Please join us. Thank you, sir. Please. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Sanyal, Mr. Pandit, Gopiben, past presidents, dignitaries, friends, ladies and gentlemen. So happy to have today the two stalwarts with us. Ajay bhai, please. Uh, and much sought after in the time that we are, the era that we are, the speed that we are, the country, the vision, and everything. So everybody is very keen. And Mr. Sanyal, I feel certainly very bad that we are having you for the first time at this campus of AMA. This campus has been now 27 years, but we look forward to having you again and again and again and again, sir. Yes, thank you. So now that's a public commitment. Okay. No, but I hope that you're seeing that we are doing really something for the industry, for the citizens, and it is so important that we bring the knowledge and how the things are shaping up, because everybody reads in newspaper and that's the only data that they are getting. Something which is more crispier, more detailed is what we are wanting to look at. So, ladies and gentlemen, the theme of the program today, on the World Intellectual Property Day, and certainly thanks to Mr. YJ Trivedi and Jatin Bhai and Gopi Ben, that they had sponsored this program 17 years back as this the center. And every year there's so many, and I'm coming to that. Before that, I would want to just give a basics of the program, the theme for today's one, the IP Day, World Intellectual Property Day, and who better than Mr. Pandit that we have. And Mr. Pandit, we have been doing several programs under this auspices of YJ Trivedi Academy for Intellectual Properties. And it is one of the programs, or many of the programs, which are sought after. People will ask every year for us, when is the IP conference happening? People will ask us what the new things are happening and how do we get the information. So this is one platform which has become very important for the IP communication, so far as new things happening, developments happening. And sir, I'm reading that every 6th minute in today's newspaper there is one patent which is filed. Now this is fabulous, right? We were always worried before just 5 years that where is this country, as when we were compared to some companies in the world, the companies were filing more patents than the country as India. Now we are seeing 6. And to top this up, today's your statement that I'm reading in the newspaper, 100,000 patents granted in 1 year last, right? That's the so fabulous. I think I would certainly say, and thank you, you have printed that, Ajay bhai. So certainly you feel sometimes when you read such news that we have arrived as a country. We have arrived. 100,000 patents granted in a year is not a small achievement by any stretch of imagination. So thank you, sir. We are very keen to know more about it. And Sanjeev, sir, certainly everybody is so excited about the times. Everybody is saying India's decade. Everybody is talking about that. Now there is no question of a brain drain. On the contrary, the guys who have gone, who are coming, wanting to come back. There's nothing like people thinking that India versus other, because here is a no brainer. Next 10 years, anybody working here doing anything will grow in a significant manner, except that they don't want to work. But if you put, so I think that's something that we are very, very, very keen to. So to do the, my role of course, introducing the speakers, of course, the stalwarts they are, but that's the role that I'm supposed to be playing also. First, I'll introduce Dr. Unnat Pandit in the sequence. I will invite first Mr. Pandit to be delivering his address, and then we will have Mr. Sanyal to deliver his address. So Dr. Unnat Pandit is a professor of IP innovation and entrepreneurship at Jawaharlal Nehru University. Currently the Controller General of Patents, Design and Trademarks at the DPIIT, India. He has previously served as a Dean of ABVSME at JNU, Program Director, Atal Innovation Mission, member of IPRTT. Pandit has also served, Mr. Pandit has also served. Here it's Pandit, so I mentioned, but Mr. Pandit has also, Dr. Pandit has also served as OSD, Official on Special Duty to Commerce and Industry Ministry, Government of India, and head IP in the pharma industry. Dr. Pandit, we have also a pharma man who is an advisor to the pharma industry also. Dr. Pandit is associated in many organizations. He has served in academics, industry, bureaucratic role towards catalyzing the Indian IP innovation and entrepreneurship system. Thank you, sir, for coming as a token of appreciation, and thank you for coming. We will give you one bridge so that we have you connected with us for a longer time and have you more often. Shri Sanjeev Sanyal, everybody knows, everybody wants to hear him and his thoughts, his vision, and certainly his intellect. A prominent Indian economist and author, is a member of Prime Minister Modi's Economic Advisory Council and has served as principal economic advisor to the finance minister. He has represented India on the international forums and contributed to key reforms during the COVID-19 pandemic. Mr. Sanyal has a background in financial markets and was a global strategist and managing director of Deutsche Bank. An alumnus of Sri Ram College of Commerce, Delhi, Mr. Sanyal later attended Oxford University as a Rhodes Scholar. He has been awarded a Eisenhower Fellowship and Young Global Leader by the World Economic Forum. He has published numerous books and has received numerous awards. Thank you, sir, for gracing this event. And this bridge certainly will want to remain connected, and thus the bridge. Thank you. I have one more important thing to do today. This center, YJ Trivedi Academy for Intellectual Property, 17 years, as I said, that this center was, and then numerous events have happened. We were to felicitate Mr. Trivedi today, but he is unwell a bit. So I would do, I'll just communicate what the center is and certainly felicitate in absentia. Of course, Jatin Bhai and Gopi Ben are here, but you will convey our thanks to Trivedi Sahib. On this day, we would like to acknowledge Mr. YJ Trivedi, who is one of the respected names in the field of IPR, not only in Ahmedabad, but in the Western India. Under his vision, a special center of IPR education, training, and awareness was established 17 years ago. We would like to congratulate him, thank him, and the entire YJ family today on the foundation day. This is the foundation day when it was 17 years ago also, day of the center. This activity has given hundreds of youngsters, students, and industrialists and professionals new horizon of IPR learning and also for their career growth. So once again, thank you. Please convey on behalf of Ahmedabad Management Association to Trivedi Sahib and the family that you are, that thank you. And this is doing very important job for the city as well as the professionals of the city. So without much ado, I will invite Dr. Pandit for his address.
That's okay. That's it. It is really a pleasure to be in Ahmedabad, be in Ahmedabad Management Association, and especially with Sanjeev Sanyal sir. So whatever good work which you are thinking that I have tried to do it, the source of energy is Sanjeev Sanyal sir. He has, right after my joining to this role, we had a couple of meetings and sir has really supported the IP office in such a warm gesture for the IP office, I can say that. And whenever and at whatever the moment we need the support, sir has really mentored the IP office. That's what we can say. Yes, the transformation which is happening in the country in IP ecosystem, and certainly we see the entire vertical shift in the IP ecosystem. Not just the patents are much talked about, but certainly Gujarat is second highest in the trademark also. And we have a dedicated trademark registry in Ahmedabad, which is certainly offering a quality services. And hearing the officers are posted here. We have also started the subdivision of a Mumbai Patent Office in Ahmedabad. This shows that the state has a huge potential. In last few years, we have seen the 40% growth in the patent filing. That shows the potential not just in the industrialization through Vibrant Gujarat, but on ground, creation of a innovation IP for the betterment of a ecosystem. Today is again a very special day as part of a World IP Day, and on the theme of a World IP Day, intellectual property and sustainability, building common future with innovation and creativity. Very thoughtfully designed theme for this World IP Day. And certainly the team in WIPO has tried to make everyone awake. United Nations has announced the Sustainable Development Goal in 1998-99, and all members have agreed that we should offer a sustainable livelihood to the world, and each and every country need to be committed for this. And so many has been talked about this. But while analyzing the progress of this 17th Sustainable Development Goal, it was found that on an average, majority of the SDG has a 12 to 15% of growth after 25 plus years. And with this pace, we all say that 21st century is a knowledge century. And in knowledge century, such a low pace of development which is happening, it is an alarming situation. प्रधानमंत्री जी ने एक हमें बीज मंत्र भी दिया है, विकसित भारत बाय 2047, और उसके लिए बहुत सुंदर सा हमें ध्येय पथ भी दिया हुआ है, आत्मनिर्भर भारत, उसके 5 पिलर्स भी हमें बताए हैं. लेकिन उसके सामने on sustainable development goal, the country is facing the challenges. On 10 out of the 17 SDGs, we really need to work during this 2 decades of a Amrit Kal period. And in this 2 decades of a Amrit Kal period, we have to build the innovation and technology embedded knowledge economy. And IP is the key to open the doors of this knowledge economy. Government tries to frame the policies, and you have seen the kind of a reformatory patent amendment rules which has been brought in. Ease of doing business is one of the mantra which is realized in across different sectors. So why not IP? So with this, in IP also we have done a reformatory changes. Form 27, Form 3, Rule 24C. All these are the reformatory change. New introduction of a Rule 70A, Certificate of Inventorship. We all know that patents were granted to the corporate or applicant, but the real person who is working in this patent, he was not getting recognized for. So there was a provision, but we have tried to make this in a much simplified manner to offer the inventor a certificate of inventorship. This is something which is a pride, and no matter in a drawing room we can do a precious wall painting, or we can do the fit the precious marble on the walls, but 15 such certificate of inventorship is more valuable than the any kind of a precious decoration in the drawing room. That gives the joy and respect to the inventor, and this is definitely required. We need to respect the creativity, we need to respect the innovation, we need to respect the inventor and creator in this country. And that's why this thought has been put it into the practice, and rules has been appropriately amended to make sure that all such inventor need to be celebrated. We can see how many universities are celebrating the success of a patent grant, and how many inventors, creators are felicitated in the university, or maybe they are getting a space in their annual report. So without recognizing their contribution, how we can build the knowledge economy, how we can build the technology and innovation based transformation in the country. So this was one of the pioneering change. We can say that in IP innovation space, we have changed the standing position to see the innovation and creativity. That is the most important and valuable contribution, which so far in last 10 years of this government, more than 11 such amendments happened. So this is again one of the IP friendly approach of the government which is getting reflected. इतने सारे बदलाव, वो भी स्टेक होल्डर और इकोसिस्टम को स्ट्रेंथन करने के लिए सरकार ने ना सिर्फ इनिशिएटिव्स लिए हैं. वी कैन से दैट नेशनल आईपी पॉलिसी गॉट रिलीज्ड ऑन टू 2016, स्टार्टअप इंडिया, स्टैंड अप इंडिया, the Mudra Yojana, startup funding, fund of fund, all these are a visible changes. But on a legal aspect also, government has taken a reformatory step towards strengthening the core foundation of IP ecosystem, and that too offering the reformatory changes as a fertilizer and seeding the ecosystem to grow in the country. इतने विजन के साथ प्रधानमंत्री जी के नेतृत्व में पूरी भारत सरकार के विभिन्न विभागों ने काम किया है. Whether it's a sanitation program or Har Ghar Nal Se Jal, everywhere there is a approach of a IP driven solution design. Even in the vaccination program, COVID में हमने global vaccination diplomacy की. This is again the IP driven approach to the solution design. COVID application, IP driven approach to the taking the data of each and every person who is vaccinated. And we all have explained, and we have all have tried to be part of this entire change which has happened. And we have not just done for the country. भारत ने सिर्फ ये सॉल्यूशन अपने लिए नहीं बनाए हैं, भारत ने विश्व को भी ये विरासत दी है. सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट गोल में हमारी यही प्राथमिकता है, कैसे हम सॉल्यूशंस भारत के लिए, भारत की समस्याओं के लिए डिजाइन करें और इसका उपयोग पूरे विश्व को करने के लिए उपलब्ध कराए. That's the whole theme of this World IP Day. Building our common future. And our common future doesn't have any limitation to our country or our neighboring states. No, it has the wider perspective, global perspective. In my view, the IP creation is really a game changing initiatives. हम सब ने ये महाभारत के युद्ध में भी देखा है कि एक तरफ देव एक तरफ दानव, मतलब चर्निंग होने के बाद अमृत निकलता है. So same way, the industry has their own priorities. Government has and policymakers have a priorities. Industry wants to earn the economic goals, whereas government wants to achieve the social goals. And achieving the social goal is the need now. The kind of industrialization which has happened in last 25 years, we are not going far away. When EMA established, and now after 27 years, you all can see the change which has happened in Gujarat's industrial transformation. And parallel to this, in last 25 years, we were granting around 1,000 patents. Now we are a 1 lakh. See the change, the level of success in the IP-driven technological establishment. So now there is a responsibility for us also to balance this with the social goals. And churning between the economic goal and social goals will offer the innovation IP. And that innovation and IP needs the priority for offering the IP-driven solutions for the SDG problems. हमने सरकार ने कई ऐसे प्रयास भी किए हैं, जैसे माल न्यूट्रिशन और अर्ली एज मॉर्टालिटी के लिए जननी सुरक्षा योजना, मदर चाइल्ड केयर प्रोग्राम, वैक्सीनेशन प्रोग्राम. All these are the government IP driven innovations which may not get the exclusivity, but yes, these are a thoughtfully designed solutions to the social needs. भारत को विकसित भारत बनना है तो we need to get rid of all these social challenges. Next 2 decades is going to be the transformation in the social innovation sector. And for that we all need to commit. विकसित भारत कैसे बनेगा? यहां बैठे हर एक व्यक्ति को अपनी क्या भूमिका रहेगी विकसित भारत के लिए, ये सोचनी होगी. और हर रोज क्या कंट्रीब्यूशन विकसित भारत बनाने की दिशा में हम कर रहे हैं, ये सोचना होगा. तब जाके विकसित भारत का निर्माण आने वाले 2 दशकों में होगा. And that would be the biggest message which WIPO wanted to give to each member states. And that's why the theme of this year's World IP Day celebration is thoughtfully designed. This is not just a celebration of a 1 day or 1 week. This is a celebration which we have to do daily. When we wake up, we need to ask ourselves, what is my contribution to Bharat? What is going to be the strategy for tomorrow or in a week or in a month? And we need to commit ourselves to this developmental journey. And I congratulate the YJ Trivedi Academy for designing such a wonderful thought-provoking program in AMA, and certainly AMA has been designing such thought-provoking programs regularly, periodically. Now, one such novel program AMA can also design, that what is the impact which is getting created in social innovation, in industrial innovation, in the field where we need the IP-driven solution design for such a global issues. I think that would be really required to have in this country for next 2 decades. The journey is going to be the transformation. And this transformation without the thoughtfully crafted strategy on IP innovation driven knowledge economy, I think that will be the game changer if we all commit ourselves to work on this. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Yes, we have been party to witness to so many innovations that government has rolled out. Sir, would you like to, yeah, howsoever you're comfortable. Over to you, sir.
Good evening, friends. Dr. Godiawala, Ms. Gopi Tripathi, my friend Unnat, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak here at the Ahmedabad Management Association on the event for the World Intellectual Property Day 2024. Now, we meet here today in a sense when India is at the cusp of history at multiple levels. This year, we are going to finally see our economy cross the $4 trillion mark. And given the fact that, thanks to the yen's decline, Japan is now only at $4.1 trillion, we, with a bit of luck, this year and certainly next year, will cross into being the world's fourth largest economy. And Germany is at about $4.6 trillion economy mark. So, so one more year, maximum 18 more months, we should be able to go well past them as well. So we are on our way by the year 2026-27 to becoming the world's third largest economy. On purchasing power terms, we already are the world's third largest economy. Now, of course, some may argue that even at that stage, we will still be a poor country. We'll be the world's third largest economy with the world's largest population. So one divided by the other means that we will still be, on per capita terms, a poor country. But there are some advantages of just being big. And that can definitely be leveraged to our economic interests, our geostrategic interests, and other interests. And we have every intention of using our size, the size of our internal market, our ability to negotiate with the rest of the world on trade, investment, and other platforms. So I think we need to celebrate the fact that we will now really matter on the global stage. And that matters. And in that quest, one of the things that we have to do is to establish ourselves as an intellectual property superpower. This is part of our agenda, of course, that the Honorable Prime Minister has led before us of being Vishwaguru. You cannot be a Vishwaguru unless you are an intellectual property superpower. So this is absolutely critical, and this is why the work that Dr. Unnat Pandit and his team do is absolutely critical. And many of you are here, are involved in the IP space. You are doing national service. So thank you very much. We have made a lot of progress. And I'm going to, in the next few minutes, give you a quick progress report on how we as a country are progressing on this. So just to give you some flavor of how things are. Unnat mentioned earlier that this year, rather in the year 2023, we did more than 1 lakh patent grants. I'll give you the exact number. It's actually 1,03,037 patents. To put it in context, just a few years ago, in 2016, that's 8 years ago, we were not even doing 10,000 patents a year. In the year 2016, we did 9,847 patents. So we have gone up more than 10 times in 8 years. Equally important to note is that the filings have also jumped up. Obviously, as it became easier, more people came forward to file. But in the last 1 year, the filings were 92,000. So our grant giving is actually now exceeding our filing, which means that our backlog, which many people have complained for many years, is finally getting cleared. So not only are we doing a good pace, we are getting rid of the backlog as well. Also important to understand the international positioning of all of this. So when in 2016 we were doing just 9,800 patents, The US had granted in that year 3 lakh patents. And then the same year, China had granted 4 lakh patents. That number has also gone up for them. So now China is doing more than 8 lakh patents a year. Now, some of it are very weak patents, something called utility patents, so you can discount a little bit of it. But still, I think my guess is that they are doing at least 3 lakh decent patents a year. The US in 2016 was doing about 3 lakh patents a year. They are now doing a little bit more, 310,000 patents a year. So their number hasn't gone up a lot. But these are what I would consider our global peers. So in this space, I would say we are already the third largest. So in a sense that we are entering the game. But just so that we know that if you want to be at US level, we need to be 3 times larger than here. And we want to play with China, then you have to be at least 3-4 times. I mean, I don't know whether how much you want to give credence to the utility patents, but still, the point is we still need to grow by a factor of magnitude. But we are now in the game. So this is an important thing. And it's not just about the numbers of patents filed or granted. Back in 2016, when we were only doing 10,000 patents a year, or even less, the bulk of it actually came from MNCs who were just registering their patents here. So it wasn't really Indian innovation. So domestic patents that were done in that year were only 29%. That number is now 56%. So more than half of this new patents that we are granting to Indian residents who are patenting. So this itself is also an important sign. But this has to continue. We are only 1/3 of the way to getting to the US-China league. Not out of reach. It can be done, but it needs us to keep going. And that, among the many things we want to do, is first of all, our own patenting system needs to have that throughput capacity. Now, let me say, whatever Unnat and his team have done has been done with a patent office with just 900 people in it. So they are competing with Chinese office, which has 13,000 people in it, and the US, which has 8,000 people in it. So, since this is IPL season, they are on the ground with less than 1 player, and the other guy has 13 players. So we need to fix this. The good news is that we are in the process, as we speak, of hiring 500 more people. And we have already, the government has already gotten plans of getting another 600 more people in there. So, at least we'll have 3 players on the ground soon. And the idea is to keep going. And by the way, in case any of you are getting very concerned about the fiscal aspect of this, well, this is one office, the patent office actually makes money. So the more patents you pump through, the more money we make in the government. So not very difficult to get my finance ministry to agree to this. Also important, patenting is not the only IP. There's also trademark. There's also copyright. So a lot of progress has been made even in those spaces. So let me give you some numbers here. In the year 2016, India granted only 3,596 patents. Okay. At that same time, the US granted 414,000 copyrights. These are copyrights, sorry. So we were doing 3,596, not even 4,000 copyrights. And the registration of copyrights in the US was over 4 lakhs. So if you thought our patents were not doing well, this is even further difference. I don't have the data, unfortunately, for China, but maybe, Unnat, you can provide it. But that was the level of difference. Now, the amount of copyright registrations in the US has now gone up to 441,000. So theirs has gone up. But ours has gone up again by 10 times from less than 4,000 to, in the latest number, 38,000. So again, a 10 times increase in the number of copyright registrations. Again, very good, but we are still not in the big league. In fact, here we are actually even further behind than in the case of patents. And copyrights are absolutely critical for a number of areas, particularly artistic areas. So in patents is more oriented to engineering and science. This is more oriented to literature and art and music and so on. And of course, this is also an area where we do need to pay attention. Although I think software also comes under copyright. So there is some area that still comes under copyright, but it's a lot of it is about art and culture and so on. And this is something we need to be, in order to milk the IP of this, we have to get this going. But the good news is, even here, with 38,000 copyrights registered, we are doing more than the number of filings. So we did 37,000 filings last year, and we did 38,000 registrations. So again, the pipeline that was clogged is getting cleaned. The backlog, the pending stuff is getting cleaned. And why this is important is because unless people feel that this is something that, they have some fighting chance that in some reasonable time horizon, they are going to be able to get it, people are not going to file. They're not going to file patents. They're not going to file their art. At least the people in science and technology tend to have a culture of doing it. So they may go off somewhere else and do it. In the world of arts and culture, etc., there is simply no culture of IP in India at all. So here is something that I hope that we need to your help for. We need to create a culture. Now, culture cannot come from government. Unnat and his patent office can work very hard, but the culture will only come from the general public, from the wider ecosystem of lawyers and professionals and even within organizations, science organizations, in the corporate organizations where innovation happens. There has to be a general culture of patenting, copywriting, trademarking. This is absolutely critical. And that is one of the reasons I agreed to come here, because one of my missions is to get all people, but particularly young people, to imbibe this culture. In many places, like in the US, it's almost a matter of habit that if you come up with a good idea which is patentable, you will patent it. Professors, inventors, labs, corporate labs, artists, all of them very routinely in countries like the US will go and register their patent, copyright, trademark, etc. Here, there is still a significant amount of diffidence. Let me tell you, it's not very expensive to do. And if you don't do it, don't complain if somebody else in the rest of the planet does it for you. So it's not that it's simply harmless not to do this. You have to be willing to put in that extra 10% effort to do this. Because otherwise, the rest of the world is doing what they're doing. They're even willing to come and patent haldi. Right? So this is a global intellectual property war that we are now going to be a part of. Now, in the past, it may not have mattered. We were not a part of the global scene. But we are now a part of the global scene. As I said right in the beginning, we are the world's the third largest economy already in PPP terms. In dollar terms also, in just a couple of years, we will be there. Now, we can't be going around complaining that the rest of the world doesn't pay attention to us, we can't do it. No. We are one of the big boys now. We're going to behave like one. And we have to be willing to take our rightful place in the world. So, let me say that we are the world's 1/6 of the world's population. It is our right to be 1/6 of the world's economy. It is our right to have 1/6 of the world's patents. It's our right to have 1/6 of the world's innovators. It's our right to have 1/6 of the world's billionaires. So whenever people complain about billionaires, they won't just have to say Adani, Ambani, they'll have to give a very long list. It won't be worth their while. And we have to step up there and be able to grab it. Nobody's going to give it to us. So now, since this is not just about IP, but about IP for sustainability, let me end by saying that there is a huge, this is just of the many things, this is one big area of innovation that we need to get into, is relates to sustainability. Now, of course, there is the whole issue of energy transition, which at least people know about. And let me say that India needs to go through that energy transition, not just because of climate change and because of Paris Agreement and so on. Let's be very clear. The gods didn't give us very much hydrocarbons, but they gave us a lot of sunshine. You here in Ahmedabad definitely know that. So we need to be able to convert our natural resources into the energy we need. So this is something that fits our agenda irrespective of what the rest of the world wants us to do. But it's not just about energy transition. There's lots of other things to do in sustainability. I mean, just one example, plastics. We, in the world in general, but we can clearly true of India, we are drowning in the amount of plastic we are generating. All of this is getting into our food, getting into our waterways, getting even into our forests. And we need to find a way to stop doing this, either by finding ways of recycling them or creating plastics that biodegrade, whatever it is. Because, if we are living in a world of Amazon delivery, then we are going to generate packaging. And that packaging has to be done in some other way. This particular way of doing it is simply not sustainable. There are many other areas of sustainability that we can think of. Urban design, for example. Again, something that Ahmedabad has been at the forefront of. And they have some amazing architects, including, again, my friend Bimal Patel, who I believe designed this particular building. I've had the opportunity of working with him on some other projects as well in Delhi. And let me say that there is huge amount of innovations that can be done. It's not that, urbanism is something where innovations have to be localized. You can't take some American innovation and hope it works here. Urbanism is a very local thing. And that means, again, a lot of innovations that can be sometimes patentable, sometimes not. Maybe they have uses across the rest of India or even the world. But even without getting into, property rights, innovation as a general national effort has to be something that we should do. Of course, it is something that the government itself needs to do. And let me say that perhaps for the first time, we have a government, and perhaps, and I must say that I have had the privilege of working in a government led by the Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi, where sort of government process reform is considered like a mantra. It's something that you are encouraged to do all the time. It doesn't just happen on paper. I have been personally part of huge amount of process reforms that have been done in the last few years. For the first time since independence, we are literally shutting down entire autonomous bodies, departments, agencies of government. Every government, central government, state government, whatever other level of government around the world, creates institutions. They may be useful at the time that they had created them, but over a period of time, many of these institutions become defunct or outdated and so on. And for the first time, a huge effort is being done to shut down institutions that have outlived their utility. So just in the last few years, we have merged the Children's Film Society, the Tariff Commission, the All India Handloom Board, the All India Handicraft Board. Now, it's not that we don't like handicrafts and handlooms, but there are many institutions to do them. You've got to cut down and bring it down to the ones that you want. Similarly, we have literally gotten rid of hundreds, if not thousands, of old laws. And all kinds of processes have gotten rid of. The one that we have done for patents is just one example. So it's not by chance that our economy is currently growing at the pace it is growing. In the last financial year, we grew at about 8%, easily the fastest growing economy in the world. And at a time when really the rest of the world is providing no help because export markets are pretty weak. This year too, again, we are likely to be the world's fastest growing economy. And this is happening because our supply side, the insides of our system, are getting cleaned up. And at every stage, it requires effort. It requires effort from us in the government, cleaning up our processes, creating infrastructure. But it, of course, requires effort from all of you. You are the ones going out there, making those innovations, taking the risks as business innovators, investors. There are academics, perhaps, in the audience who are currently building up the next generation, who are going to go out there as workers and innovators and entrepreneurs. So this is a true national effort. And why not? Because really, this is a turning point in history. As I said in the very, very beginning, after literally 1,000 years of decline, our share in the world economy is now clearly going up. So with that, let me stop. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Mr. Sanyal. I think very interesting IP and growth, because this is on the back of the IP that we are talking about becoming the fourth largest and the third largest economy. And then 3.5 trillion to 35 trillion, if I would just assume, maybe 40 trillion, I don't know, 45 trillion by 2047. What would be your guess, sir?
With no idea.
but on a bottom line, I would say 35 trillion. So the point is, how much would the IP contribute to this trajectory of growth, and how much push will have to be given? Fabulous. I think first compliment and thank you that we are talking about a culture of IP. Use the word that you are here. Your agenda or your motive is to, for us to take home. Then how do we, believe that there is something to do with our ideas and not just kill them? We execute them, not kill them. Let us put it like that. So, of course, we'll open up for question answer session. Any questions, please feel free to ask. But I think the IP is a very important component of all the growth that we are looking at, is what is the take home also. And of course, compliments Dr. Pandit. 1 person versus 13 people, and you're shooting even more than the application so far as I hope that happens to the judiciary also, because quite a bit of and one thing, of course, seeing Dangayat sir, I see, and sustainability, sir. Yes, sir, please.
This is practically happening. The cases which are getting filed are less than the cases which are getting disposed. And this is the data which today morning, Honorable Justice Pratibha Maninder Singh ji has presented in one of the event in Delhi. This is actually happening. And if we see that the amount of cases which are filed in, say, as a 10 years back against the kind of a grant which was happening, and now the kind of cases which are getting filed. So consistently, based on the data which she has presented, I can just recall that around 8 years back, there were around 400 to 450 cases which are getting filed against the grant of 10 to 12,000. And this year we have a grant of 1 lakh, and 324 new cases got into the filed in the IP bench, and they have really disposed of around 375.
Wow.
So against 1 lakh grant, the number of cases which are filed is less. So percentage ratio, if we calculate, then we will get the absolute number.
And to add to this department makes money. Wow. Yes, Jatin bhai.
Thank you for the point and probably what Sawan bhai has brought in. Being a practitioner, I would just request Sanjay ji when he's here, because I understand the role of the advisory is not on purely onto the finance part, but as an overall economy effect. Sir, since we are on the point of litigation, I would just request that if our voice can reach to the PMO of establishing the intellectual property division in every state. Probably we are fortunate that we have a Delhi as an IPD, and now recently we have a Chennai also the IPD. Mumbai is on a way. Gujarat, we are fortunate to have the Commercial Court Act, and we have a separate court for that, dealing with the intellectual property cases. But at the same time, at the upper court, like in the appeal court of appeal, it's always a challenge for the litigator, and that is creating indirect impact on the economy. And that's the point which I would brought in, since Savanvi has brought about the litigation. So that could be one way which we can expedite the litigation, which all are pending with respect of IP. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for the suggestion. I mean, obviously, we want this thing to work. There's no point in giving out a large number of patents and copyrights and all of it that ends up in litigation which doesn't progress. So far, the system seems to be able to cope. But fair point that now, you've given all of this up. Future litigation will also spike up as a result of that. And we have to be ready for it. And fair point.
Thank you.
And maybe I would add to that. Yes, I'm coming to you, Sunil bhai. Mr. Sanyal, if I can add to that on one, this is maybe a good idea for litigation. Every state has so that the things are disposed so far as IP and protection and laws. But on the culture part, that I think is, can we have something which is kind of, say, a self-pledge? A self-pledge which comes online, where people, and if that fellow who pledges that, yes, I will file a patent within the next 1 year as a pledge, and I will idea. And if that happens, then there is a recognition also at some level, some platform. I'm just trying to think, creating a culture. This is a very inexpensive way of doing it. But if I go and if I have to, it's a self-pledge, not that you are enforcing that on me. But if you get that 5 million people doing the self-pledge, and that 1 million more or 100,000 more, you're doubling the patents in the country.
India has a huge potential. Ideally, we are not having the real understanding about what kind of a potential we have. जैसे हनुमान जी को अपनी शक्ति का अंदाज नहीं था कि कितना बड़ा विशाल समुद्र भी वो जंप करके पहुंच सकते हैं. So we have this innate potential of we should be, I think we all need to realize this, that this potential is required, and in this knowledge century we should be protecting. Copyright की जो सर ने बात की है, we are no more any undermining player in copyright sector. शायद 1.5 लाख करोड़ की एक इंडस्ट्री है जो हर रोज कुछ ना कुछ नया करती है. Only the thing, it is a voluntary right. So they may not be opting to have the registered certificate for this. And it is not that process is complex. It is not that it is not an online. Everything is online. Registration is also cost effective. But awareness is the big challenge. And anything in the copyright sector, even if somebody need to claim the damages for the copyright violation, the certificate or registration is going to be helpful.
Yep.
Academics में कितने सारे किताबें बाहर आती है, लिटरेचर की कितनी सारी किताबें बाहर आती है. How many book you have seen which has the copyright certificate in the preamble of this book? That mindset change we require. And this mindset, when we are going to change, we are going to compete equally with the developed ecosystem in IP.
Yeah. Sunil bhai, you have a question?
Hi. Thanks for the inspiring words and the future of India. My question is related to the fact that as we grow up the platform for increasing number of patents, the backbone for patenting is always R&D. So innovation and patenting will come from R&D. And unless you look at integrating the R&D system both in the public and private sector without working in silos, merely announcing large plans of money without having the necessary quality of researchers to take it further for national development goals, we are not likely to see the results. So what are your views on going further in that, the backbone of the whole system?
So R&D is something that certainly we need to pump. There is no doubt about it. Now, oddly enough, this is an area where the government actually is doing a rather big effort, whether in terms of the general increasing the Atal Innovation Lab effort, but by the way, also Unnat was one of those who set it up. But also in our government labs, after a long time, there is, in the last few years, life. I mean, DRDO, for example, is doing amazing work. Some of you may be seeing the extraordinary missile technologies and others. So for the first time in defense, we are really at the cutting edge of all kinds of things, from missiles to radar technology and so on. And some of the other things where we may not be quite at the cutting edge because we are such big buyers ourselves, just by virtue of the fact that we can give repeat orders, etc., we'll get there after a few iterations. So I am quite confident, interestingly, of this is one area where I think the government labs are doing a little bit better. Similarly, there are other labs, etc., where some effort will be put, something will pick up, at least at the central government labs. State government labs, some are better than others, but we can have a different debate about it. But really, I think the real disappointment is coming, in my view, from two places. First of all, Indian academia. A lot of universities in India do not think of themselves as innovation centers, they think of themselves as lecturing centers. Now, I'm sorry, that role of academia is rapidly going to get outdated. Because frankly, why do you need to give lectures every day when you can watch it on YouTube and ChatGPT can answer all your questions? So universities have to change their setup to be primarily knowledge generators rather than lecturing centers. They are not coaching classes anymore. All the coaching can be done in an automated way. Why do you need thousands of people giving the same lecture when you can get one person, the best person in the world, gives the lecture somewhere in the world, everybody can watch it, and as I said, ChatGPT will answer 99.9% of your questions. So therefore, academia has got to change and rewire itself for research. In the rest of the world, they do this to greater or lesser extent. But in India, academia, except maybe the odd IIT, etc., I'm not taking them, but I'm talking about the average university, do not think of themselves as knowledge generating sector. So that is one place where this rewiring has to happen. The third area where I think the biggest disappointment is the strangest. Indian corporate sector. India's corporates, for reasons that are somewhat puzzling to me, actually is not a great hub of innovation and has not been. This is, you would think that we are now 30 years plus since 1991 reforms. No, this is not something that you need to encourage. And whenever I make this point, there's something will say, oh, you need to create some depreciation rules or something like that to encourage it. I'm sorry. Seems to me that this is something that companies should do on a routine basis just to be ahead. This is a purely commercial thing I'm arguing for. And so far, Indian companies, including sometimes startups, have by and large remained confined to existing technologies. Maybe at the margin, they are pushing it a little bit and, getting by. And here, I think the biggest culture change has to happen. I mean, take for example, Indian pharmaceuticals, right? We pride ourselves in being the generic pharmaceuticals hub of the world, etc. But why should we only be here? Why can't we get to the cutting edge? And now it's no longer the case. We're no longer in the 1990s where, our pharmaceuticals companies are not very big, don't have labs, etc. I'm sorry, 30 years on, some of our Indian generic pharmaceutical manufacturing companies are world standard size. And when push comes to shove, some of them can generate their own cutting edge vaccines, as we saw during the COVID pandemic. Now, there may be some problems that may be there in our processes for whatever accepting or giving the permissions, etc. Come to us. We are here to solve it. Just like we solved all the problems in the patenting process, we'll solve it in whatever it is that you are doing process. I'm committed to it personally. But I think that since this is about culture, this has got to be, every company has got to have some lab lying somewhere in their premises, tinkering away. And, you know, in the old days, you could say we are not large enough, we're not at the cutting edge, we don't have the knowledge, we don't have the profits. I'm sorry, look at the Nifty or the BSE and look at their profitability. I don't think anybody can anymore complain that you know, our companies don't have the money or the profits, etc. They're quite capable. They are generating enough revenue that even if they can't find scientists in India, they can pay global salaries and bring people to here. So yeah, with that, hopefully I answered your question.
I think on profitability, the CSR spend has exceeded 50,000 crores. So we can make out how much profits are happening, that 2% only to the eligible companies. But one suggestion may be to bring a culture in the corporates. Add one line item. Add one line item in the corporate governance report. Patents applied, patents granted. Let companies write 00. They will feel
Okay,
it.
that's a good idea. Why don't you ask for it?
Just one line item added in the standard template of the corporate governance report. And it would be seen that, oh, company will feel little guilty. They would have some department to do, oh, at least go and file some if you can get granted or not. Yes, please.
I have a different view here.
Yes, please, Dr. Pandit.
Sometimes, being a scientist and being the administrator, it really gives the opportunity to think differently. See, I have seen the trend in recent past. I have observed few startups. They have, and NSE has given them the opportunity to list the startups. So these startups have also updated SEBI when their flagship product have got the Indian patent granted, and the prize money, stock price, got surged by 5 to 7% in single day. And in single day, this kind of a surge in a price is going to recover the entire cost if he has invested for protecting the IP across the world, including the attorney cost. So one day, just one day, and it is not just, there are several such startups, and if we closely observe this is happening in. Only the thing, industry is quite satisfied. Whatever they are doing, that's a good. हमें तो बस ये 10-12-15% growth में मजा आता है. We need to think out of box. We need to have a 30, 40, 50% jump. How this can be done? And this can only be done with the R&D, with the IP, with the innovation in the existing segment. Pharma industry is we are a global pharma hub. पूरे वर्ल्ड को हम दवाई एक्सपोर्ट करते हैं.
We are the factory to the world.
We are the factory to the world. That means our factories are US FDA compliant, EU compliant, WHO compliant, and whatsoever may be the regulatory compliant. We are actually, pharma sector is the front leading sector. अगर डेवलप्ड भारत बनना है तो डेवलप्ड भारत के लिए फार्मा सेक्टर इज रेडी, क्योंकि आज विश्व को हम दवाई बेच रहे हैं. सो व्हाट इज बिग इन दिस? हाउ मच ऑफ अ R&D और न्यू प्रोडक्ट्स और NDDS प्रोडक्ट वी आर ब्रिंगिंग? That's the future. We are less sensitive on that. That's the whole requirement which we need to enable.
Yeah, gentlemen in the second row, please.
Thank you very much. हमारे एक क्वेश्चन है कि 8% हम जीडीपी ग्रोथ में है एंड आवर प्राइम मिनिस्टर आल्सो टेलिंग विल बी डेवलप इन 2047. So we are proud of him, no doubt. But equal distribution of wealth in India, I have seen so many economists they have advertised in newspaper, they discuss. But the economy has not go down to the village level. We are having 140 crore of people. In villages, there are so many clients is there. They have not been encouraged. Number one, we are so poor in villages that this talent has not been encouraged by the government. Number one is in other
Sir,
countries.
sir, if you can keep the question crisp, so we can listen more from them.
I will probably point out that our universities, that like as in time of COVID, in other universities in America and also, they have encouraged to introduce this medicine, etc. In India, it is not been encouraged in universities. So we have to.
So what is the question, sir?
My question is, our universities and government should encourage and explore our talents from the
Okay.
villages level.
Got it. That's a suggestion. That's
That
more than
is the
question.
suggestion.
Yeah, yeah.
Then
Abhay
you
bhai,
will have
bit of first
patents.
row up, right, Mike. Yeah.
Then you will have number of patents.
Yeah.
Only Ramdev Baba
Ajay bhai.
is not the patent.
Abhay bhai.
एक पूछना था
Thank you, sir.
जैसे
Thank you, sir.
इंडिया के अंदर अभी कंपनीज जो है धीरे धीरे अभी इंटरनेशनल लेवल पे ग्लोबल लेवल पे आ रही है गवर्नमेंट के तरफ से इंडियन कंपनीज को जो इंडिया की तो इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टी राइट मिल जाते हैं लेकिन अभी से उसकी तैयारी करके ग्लोबल लेवल पे अलग अलग कंट्रीज के अंदर रजिस्ट्रेशन कर सके इसके लिए क्या सुविधा या क्या सब्सिडी है या गवर्नमेंट के कोई नोडल एजेंसी है जो काम आगे बढ़ा सकती है
नहीं डेफिनेटली देखिए ये पेटेंट इज अ टेरिटोरियल राइट सो फॉर इंडियन आईपी प्रोटेक्शन सर्टेनली देयर आर इंसेंटिव्स व्हिच गवर्नमेंट हैज गिवन and more than 80% fees reduction which is also implemented in 2017 and this has been very well appreciated for encouraging the filing and certainly a new trend which we have seen. India is the international search authority, international preliminary examination authority also, and whatever the PCT which is getting filed, more than 99% such application is routed through the Indian search authority. That's the whole change which we have seen. And in what you have seen about the industry startups are utilizing now the provisions under rule 24C in the patent rules which expedites the examination. So within a month they are filing a complete specification and they apply form 9 form 18A and within 6 months they are getting their granted patent with the claims on hand and then they are applying with the Indian International Search Authority IPEA for the PCT protection. Within 1 year their report is very green, obviously they have got the granted patent and then they go with this claim and the search report to the different ecosystem, US, Europe, Japan, and after that they are going to the investor. तो यही है कि भाई strategically we have to learn how we can utilize the best possible available remedies which is there in the our statute, our rules, and these are being done. This is
No,
something
no, I think
not
his,
which is
his
do-
question is slightly different. His question is, once you get a patent here, how does one get a global patent? And
the
what is,
government
does
support?
WIPO and whatever is the process of getting? That's, I think.
So, see, for PCT, we are having a world's lowest fee structure. How much discount we need in that? So,
No, so
नहीं,
that is,
there is नहीं
no,
नहीं
no, so that's not
for
what he-
world patenting government cannot give and government should not give. हाँ, एक मिनट you are asking directly about the incentives or the benefits which we can
no,
yeah.
sir.
Support for नहीं, support for government means what? Government is supporting.
नहीं नहीं उनको उनका उनका क्वेश्चन हाँ दीजिए
You can
एक
repeat.
ओके हाँ बताइए क्या
सपोर्ट के लिए मैं नहीं बोल रहा हूँ।
हाँ।
इंडिया की कंपनीज आज के स्टेज में धीरे धीरे ग्लोबल पे आ रही है।
बिल्कुल
अब सबको मालूम नहीं है कि भाई ग्लोबल स्टेज पे रजिस्ट्रेशन अलग अलग कंट्रीज में करना वो कैसे करना है, क्या करना है, और वो पॉसिबल भी नहीं है क्योंकि हमारी कंपनीज धीरे धीरे अभी ऊपर आ रही है। तो उस संजोग के अंदर गवर्नमेंट के पास में कोई ऐसी नोडल एजेंसी है कि जिसको हम हमारा इंडियन इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टी तो राइट ले लिया, लेकिन वो लेकर के हम जाए कि भाई यूएसए में कर दीजिए, जापान में कर दीजिए, यूरोप में करवा दीजिए।
नहीं, ये ऑलरेडी है। मैं यही कह रहा हूं कि आप कह रहे हैं वो ऑलरेडी इनिशिएटिव टेकन अप किया है। आई थिंक आई कुड नॉट एबल टू गेट द इनफ टाइम टू रिस्पॉन्ड यू। जो मेरा आखिरी सेंटेंस था जिसमें गवर्नमेंट ने आईपी मित्र अनाउंस किए हुए, पहले 498 थे, आज 2200 से ज्यादा आईपी मित्र है। एंड दीज आईपी मित्रस आर दी आईपी अटॉर्नीज who are going to handhold the SME, MSME and startups.
And this list of IP Mitras is all there on the
Is
line.
all there on
So
the
you
website.
can approach Mr. I think
So
that's the
that
question.
was my final
Yeah, thank you.
submission. Okay.
Abhay bhai.
Mr. Sanyal, you are a historian. Our civilization goes back to thousands of years. And we don't have a documentation in our civilization. We are a parampara where it's a mokhik, lot of it. Our music is also not written. Our recipes are not written. Our Maharajis just play the food without recipes. So in such a situation where documentation is not in our culture, in most of our arts, how this is a very Western idea of patenting because it has to be documented, it has to be drawn, and it is only, I mean, in the 17th century, India was already one of the largest economies in the world in the first place. We had amazing innovations happening in the sector, in the industry of that time. So how can we dwell into our traditional knowledge, which is hugely rich, to patent what was already known? There is the only way is to go into history and go into our literature. But how there must be so much intellectual property there.
So let me say that, well, you're partly right in that although we have a big oral tradition, a very significant part of our tradition is also written because we were also one of the first literate populations also in the world. So although we are a very old civilization with a very old oral tradition, we also have a very old written tradition as well, one of the oldest in the world. So first of all, it may come as some shock to you to know that, the National Manuscript Mission has got 4 lakh manuscripts. Most of them have not been translated. So who knows how much knowledge is there? So first of all, there is even the written part is enormous and we haven't put in the effort to find out even what it is. Forget patenting, we don't even know what's there. Secondly, of the unwritten part of the patent, of the intellectual property, well, I know we live in the world where either, as they say, publish or perish of a sort. These are the rules of the world as it stands. Historically, we did not have a system in India where intellectual property was created. That person who created it was given accolades. We remember Shushruth and Aryabhatta, etc. But they were not given protection as such. But today we live in a world where we can give it protection and we can commercialize it. So why not? So, that is the way the modern world functions. So, that we have to function in it. So it is important for us, therefore, since we live in this world, to shift and adapt all this knowledge that is there. So the first thing we need to do, even before giving it protection, is documentation. And this documentation is also part of this culture I'm talking about. We don't document these things and put it down. Now, just so that we know, we have unbelievable amount of, you talked about recipes, you're absolutely right. Every part of the country has got unbelievable, and we do not document. Somebody's grandmother passes it to the next generation and so on. And so for the first time, we are now dealing with putting it down. Secondly, even that which is documented, as I said, we are not even aware of a lot part of it. So this cannot be done by government effort. This has to be a national cultural effort, a general societal effort. That's why I said this is something where we have to actually change our culture, where it becomes routine for us to lay claim on what knowledge we have created. And this requires us that, whether it is in terms of, music and arts, etc., because at least in the space of science and engineering, this is at least understood that this is an issue. We may not be doing a good job of it, but it's understood. But there are all kinds of other areas where it's not even understood that this is something that is meaningfully there. Otherwise, you are going to end up with haldi doodh being called, turmeric latte. And then we have to, a company from abroad will come here, patent it here, and copyright it here and serve it to us at 600 rupees a glass. But this is how it's going to be unless we put in that effort. And it has to be a public effort. It is not a government effort.
So that gives me the second question. You mentioned about 10 times increase in patent filing. But what is the increase in actual patent commercialization? Because that is a relevant point.
Well, okay. So because this whole thing is so new, because remember, we were hardly patenting and hardly copywriting till very, very recently. So we didn't even have a culture of patenting and registration. We are now getting a culture of hopefully doing this. Now, then that is the next stage of commercialization. Again, governments can give a push here or there, the odd incentive, particularly in government institutions, we can try and do. But again, this is not something that governments can do. This has got to be a culture. Where best to start than in Ahmedabad and Gujarat, where at least you have probably got a culture of going out there and commercializing whatever you're
Even
doing.
Before thinking of documenting, use commercialize.
Yeah, even better. So, this is where you've got to start. So I'm here for exactly this reason. Trigger this, if you've got to have a movement, this is where to trigger it.
Thank
Even
you,
in
Mr.
Gujarat,
Sanyal. Maybe just 1
Before
minute.
filing the patent, the person is getting funding to file the patent. See, SSIP program, SIPP program is something what the Gujarat government is giving upfront funding to protect the IP right and then commercialize it. SSIP program. So that is a wonderful initiative. And on culture, what you have mentioned, Mera Gaon Meri Dharohar, that is the initiative of Ministry of Culture under the Indira Gandhi Rashtriya Kala Kendra. They have digitized the entire cultural archive of more than 450 lakh, 450,000.
Wow.
450,000 villages of our country. So this is roughly around 80% villages, their cultural, their festivals, their traditions, their food, everything is getting digitized. So this is how we are equally preserving the culture with the advancement which is happening in the country. And this is a government initiative.
So thank you, Dr. Pandit. Yeah, I think we can take it maybe offline. I know Dr. Pandit has a flight to catch, and then in between, thank you. Of course, Abhay, I would say that we will have to create that culture of documentation. We cannot be just living in the old world. I think.
We can have that
But-
last person, he has raised
I
hand
know. But, so
for,
I'll
for
give
a
you-
long time.
I'll
Let's
give
do
you 10,
justice.
10
to it.
seconds
You
to ask
can,
the
you can,
question.
you can
10 seconds for the
come
question.
straight to
please.
the question.
Yeah, speak out loudly.
So the question which Sunilji asked on the integrating R&D and the educational institute and the patent, and sir, I'll differ with the response from the Sanjeevji that institute are ready to file the patents, but the main problem is that PhD scholars and the many projects funded by DST or the Rudra councils or the other states councils are the 3 years. And the students who are doing research, they have to publish or they have to show the research within the 3 years, while the patent typically they are not granted within the 3 years. So they are, instead of going on the patent prosper and publish route, they prefer the publish and perish route because they would like to show the research. So the point is, how if you can work with the AICTE, UGC, DST and research entities to consider where the patent filing
I have
even-
understood. I have understood
yeah.
your question. Now let me just give you the numbers. In country, we have around 56,000 higher education institutions. Okay. I consider each and every village level college also a higher education institution where the technical courses are being taught. In country, we have a patent filing which has surged to 47% growth in last 5 years. To 47% growth of a patent filing in last 5 years. And the number is 23,000. So not even one application is filed by one academic institution. So this is the way. And secondly, what you have said, 39.8% patent got granted in less than 30 months. And certainly, the individuals can also avail the facility of a Rule 24C, which is for the expedited. So even in a 3 years of a PhD tenure, they can at least get 5 patents. How many
In
PhD
any
students are
case,
getting this?
why does it matter for the institution? So what?
Yes.
But this problem exists in US universities also. They also pass out. That's the
Stop
institutions that
complaining.
do it.
My-
This is, if there is no culture of patenting, there is no point in
Exactly.
complaining about it. That problem, I'm sorry, is not a problem. I am not taking it as an excuse at all.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is not the justifiable complaint. We need to change the perception. They are happy with the publication. So they are not availing because publication doesn't ask any kind of a repeated questions. Examiner पूरा screw कर देता है. मतलब पूछिए ये जतिन जी और बाकी आईपी अटर्नीज है, जरा मिल लेना एक बार. हियरिंग फेस करना कितना डिफिकल्ट होता है.
Agreed, sir. So,
ठीक है ना, पसीने नहीं छूट
thank-
जाते हैं.
Thank you. I know there are many questions coming in, but I know we have to respect the time also. I'll hand over to Gopi Ben to do a formal vote of thanks. Over to you, Gopi.
Ladies and gentlemen, what a participative audience you were. To start with the thank you note, I would first thank the audience. So big round of applause for the audience. So my formal vote of thanks goes here. It's indeed an immense pleasure where I stand here today to extend a heartfelt appreciation on behalf of YJ Trivedi AMA Academy for Intellectual Property Rights to both our speakers, stalwarts in their respective fields, Dr. Unnat Pandit sir and Mr. Sanjeev Sanyal sir. In their discourse, Mr. Pandit expressed very enlighteningly how achieving SDGs through intellectual property rights is going to be our common future, and that's the only way. In fact, he very rightly pointed that how we can have inclusive India, developed India, and in turn, Viksit Bharat. The recent amendments have shown good light and action plans in this direction. His emphasis on active participation and contribution to the IP ecosystem resonates deeply with our collective responsibility as a citizen of Bharat. As he again pointed out, our engagement not only enriches the IP landscape, but also opens avenues for commercial benefits, fostering innovation and growth. Sir, the task you have assigned for assessing SDGs and IPs have been very well noted, and I'm make you sure that it shall be executed in a very short time. Sanjeev Sanyal sir, the Ahmedabad was waiting for you to hear out. Thank you so much. Your insightful perspective on the intersection between economic development and SDGs added another layer of richness to this discourse. Your thoughts on how IP can serve as a catalyst for achieving both economic growth and SDGs. Creating a win-win scenario is indeed promising and thought-provoking. In fact, I'm glad to learn, an audience also, that it's good to be a big and populous country, and that's our Bharat. Your talk emphasis on positioning India in the league of world leaders. And the days are not far that we are going to have a smaller number. The smaller is better in Global Innovation Index. So we are now going to ramp up in that ladder. Thank you, sir. And in fact, your appeal for creating culture of innovating and protecting through IP is also well noted. And I urge everyone present here to work in that direction. So on behalf of all of us present here, I once again thank Mr. Pandit and Mr. Sanyal for sparing the valuable time, sharing their invaluable insights and reach with their experiences and foresightedness. We look forward for your continued collaboration and endeavors toward realizing this vision of developed and innovative India. My sincere thanks to Team AMA, fellow Governing Council members sitting of the dais, Team Vijay within company to ideate this event and bring it to the reality. Thank you so much once again. Have a pleasant evening. Thank you.